German 40 index technical analysis, and we're on the monthly chart. And just looking at the monthly chart, we can see that the German 40 index has reached all-time highs. And in fact, if you were to ask me, I would say that this particular index is overbought, and I feel that we're likely going to see a crash of sorts. And if we were to look at the actual price action, we can also see that the market had given us this pattern over here, right? And as far as I'm concerned, this is a head and shoulders pattern, and I would say that this is your left shoulder, this would be your head, and this area over here would be your right hand shoulder. And I know that some of you may say that this is not really a head and shoulders pattern, but I would say that it is. It's not your conventional head and shoulders pattern, but trust me, it is a head and shoulders pattern. Or we could say that actually it is a W structure or a double bottom, where we have this. It's actually an overextended W structure or double bottom, and this would be the left leg of that structure, and this would be the right leg. It doesn't really matter what you call it, could be an inverted head and shoulders pattern or a W structure. The same principles apply at the end of the day. Both patterns have a neckline here, right? And whenever we have these patterns where we have the neckline there, we want to see price, as I always say, breaking sufficiently above the neckline and then come back to the neckline to just test it out. And at this point in time is where, or rather at this level is where we would look for those potential buy opportunities, especially if the neckline aligns with, as I always say, any key numbers that we have in regards to the Fibonacci retracement tool, right? So as I said, doesn't really matter if it's a head and shoulders pattern or a W structure. The same principles apply. It's the same thing, really, right? So let's not focus too much on that and focus more on the price action. So we can see at this point that price broke to the upside of that neckline, and what we want to see happen next is the market coming down to that neckline to give it a test. And at that point is where actually a lot of institutions, especially financial institutions and insurers, will be looking to buy, right? A lot of them are going to come in large numbers here at that level, and as I said, at that level is where we may potentially look for buy opportunities. In fact, I'm just going to utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool just to see if we have any key numbers that align with that neckline, right? Remember the neckline, just bear with me. Let's see. Remember the neckline, right, which is over here, is now also a very strong level of support, right? So as I said, a lot of institutions will be coming in at that level to potentially move the market up. But in as far as Fibonacci goes, at this point, we don't really have any numbers that align with that level really, except for the 23.6% maybe. So we can just delete and disregard Fibonacci. But as I said, guys, at this point in time, should price come back to this level, at this level is where a lot of traders and investors will be looking to push the market up, right? So this may be a good area to look for potential buy opportunities should price move to that level, right? Anyway, let's move down to the weekly chart and let's see what's happening down there. And here we are on the weekly chart. And to recap again, remember on the monthly chart, I said we have this pattern, and I said that it's a head and shoulder, it's an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Here's the left shoulder, here's the head, and here's the right shoulder, and it has a neckline there. Or we could say, as I said, that it is a W structure, an overextended W structure, where that first leg is much lower than the second leg, and it has a neckline there. And I said we want to see price come back to that neckline to give it a test, and the neckline is also a very strong level of support, and at that point we may see the market continue to move up, as you guys can see, right? Anyway, let's proceed. What else do we see in regards to the weekly chart? Let's have a look. I really don't see much at this point, although I want to point out that we have this candlestick over here, and what it is a bearish candlestick with a small body and quite a long lower wick. And as I always say, it is a liquidity candlestick, and it tells us that we have a lot of money stuck here in the form of liquidity, and it also adds to price potentially moving down to this level, and not only to test this level, but also to grab the liquidity associated, with that candlestick, and then we may potentially see the market move further up, right? But on the weekly chart, I really don't see much, but I can also see that we have another strong level of support here, right? and a potential W structure, and the same principles apply, right? Just like we have with that huge W structure over here, right, where whenever we have these, we want to see price breaking sufficiently above the neckline and then come back to the neckline to test it and then move further up, right? So what may possibly happen is the market may move to this level, right? And especially if it aligns with any key numbers that we have in regards to the Fibonacci retracement tool, and at that point we may see the market move further up. In fact, I'm just gonna mark that level because it's also very much important. Just bear with me. So this, we could say, is the neckline of that smaller W structure, right? But just bear in mind that as much as I'm saying that we may see price come back to this level and then move that up, that we have that candlestick that's carrying all of that liquidity. Just keep that in the back of your mind, right? I don't see much really in regards to the weekly chart of German 40, but remember what I said, guys, that I believe that this index is very much overbought, and chances are we are going to see a crash of sorts. In fact, we need to see a crash of sorts because it's just not sustainable. We can't just see the market just shoot up and not come down. The market needs to come down, and ideally I want to see price come back to this level over here, and at this level is where we may potentially look for buy opportunities. Anyway, let's head down to the daily chart. Here we are on the daily chart. On the daily chart, I'm just going to add my daily channel, and before I do so, let me just recap again. Remember, on the we spoke about the monthly chart. On the monthly chart, we spoke about how we have that inverted head and shoulders pattern here. If I can just draw it properly, just bear with me, right? Remember, or we said it is a W structure, right? And actually an overextended W structure where that first leg is much lower than the second leg, right? And to add to that, on the weekly chart, we spoke about how the market had given us another W structure here, which has a neckline there, and that as much as we want to see price come back to this level, we may only potentially see price come back to this level, and then at this level it may move further up. We also spoke about that candlestick over here that's carrying all of that liquidity, and we said that the market needs to head down as well to grab that liquidity. But as I said, here we are on the daily chart, and on the daily chart I'm going to start off by adding my daily channel, so just bear with me, guys, while I do so. Let's have a look. Daily channel, right, there we go, there we go, there we go. And in as far as the daily channel goes, we can see that on the daily chart as well, we are in a strong upward trend. Let me just adjust my channel, right? We are in a strong upward trend or trajectory, as you guys can see, which means that we should still look for potential buy opportunities, right? But let's see, what else do we see on the daily chart? At this point, I don't see much, right? But I must stress that the market has been, the market is rather overbought in my humble opinion, and we need to see a crash of sorts. And I believe that a crash is actually imminent, and we're either going to see price move further down to this level or this level as well, especially because we have that one candlestick over here that's carrying all of that liquidity. But in as far as buy or sell opportunities go at this point, I really don't see any. So I'm just going to head down to the H4 chart and let's have a look what's happening down there. Let's have a look, let's have a look, let's have a look. And again, to recap, remember we spoke about how we have this huge or smaller W structure. It has a neckline there, and we said we want to see price come back to that level at the very least, right? But here we are on the H4 chart. What do we see on the H4 chart? Let's have a look, right? On the H4 chart, I'm just going to start off by adding my H4 channel as well. I just hope that my lines are not confusing, guys. Just bear with me. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go, right? Let's zoom in and see what's happening. Here we are on the H4 chart, and on the H4 chart we have another area here of consolidation. And not only is it an area of consolidation, but it is also an area where we have another W structure which has a neckline there, right? I'm just gonna mark it as well because it's a very strong level of support, and it is quite possible that we may see price head down to that level, right? Just don't confuse all of these levels, right? Let me just zoom out a bit, right? Let me just zoom out and let's recap. Remember, guys, on the bigger time frames, we spoke about how we have this inverted head and shoulders pattern, or we could say it is a W structure which has a neckline. It's actually, let me just zoom out. Let's have a look. it's actually over here, right? It's actually over here, and it has a neckline there, right? And then we spoke about how we have this W structure which has a neckline there. Now we're talking about this area over here, right? And I'm just gonna zoom in again. Let's just zoom in. As I said, it is a W structure with a neckline there, and we may potentially see price move down to this level. But in as far as where price is currently, we're seeing that the market is struggling somewhat there, right? The market is starting to show some, sideways movement, and it indicates that we may potentially see price actually move further down, especially because if we were to look at this trend line over here, just bear with me. If we were to look at this trend line over here, we can see that we have a third rejection of sorts, right? We have a third rejection of sorts right at this point, or a fourth rejection, and we may potentially see, or a third rejection actually, we may potentially see the market move further down to this level or even this level. But myself personally, at this point in time, I really don't see any actual buy or sell opportunities, but I believe that we're building up to a situation where the market may move sideways, right, and then give us another double top and then move further down to this level, in which case I would look for potential sell opportunities on that second leg and place my stop losses just above, right? So that's what I want to see ideally, and as I said, my first take profit would be here, and that is because there's a very strong level of support, as we had a W structure there and price moving sideways, and this would be my second level of take profit, right? And my third take profit would be around here somewhere, right? But as I said, a crash is imminent. We need to see this thing move further down, right? Especially because we actually have some gaps at the bottom. We actually have a gap here, right? I hope you guys can see that we have a gap at that level, more or less. Let me just actually mark it, and that gap is carrying a lot of liquidity, and guys, that liquidity is money, and we know that the markets need to grab that liquidity at some point, right? So we are gonna see, let me just zoom out, we are gonna see in the future price come down to this level, right? Sorry, actually this level over here, which is where we have that gap. We are gonna see price come down to that level. The only issue is we don't know exactly when this will happen, but it will happen, right? But in as far as I said, buy or sell opportunities go, at this point I don't see any. But ideally, I want to see price actually do something like this and give us a sell opportunity on the second leg of that double top. And our first take profit is here, second take profit there, and so forth, right? And peace out.